Welcome to EPM in Manufacturing. This self-running presentation provides a high-level overview of important innovations in EPM technology that affect the manufacturing sector, and it does so in about 8 minutes. The objective is to make you aware of the issues and not to explain them in detail. Other presentations are or will be available from the IBP Collaborative that provides such details. This presentation builds on an article which appeared in Strategic Finance magazine called EPM in Manufacturing. A picture of the article is provided on the screen, together with a link to it on the bottom of the screen. The key innovation addressed in both the article and this presentation are applications which we call EPM2 that are driving the convergence between enterprise performance management and sales and operations planning to support integrated business planning. So, how does EPM2 create value? Well, from a strategic perspective, it provides incremental capabilities that EPM and S&OP don't fully support, ones that can be worth up to 5% of sales. And from a tactical perspective, these capabilities result in lower IT and process costs. So, what's new about EPM2 technologies, and what differentiates them from traditional EPM and S&OP tools? Well, they provide embedded modeling logic that is shared by both financial and operational planning processes. A description of this logic is provided in an exhibit in the article, and a picture of which is provided on the screen. From an EPM perspective, embedded modeling logic differences include the capabilities shown on the screen. Examples of modeling logic that differentiate EPM2 from S&OP are shown on the screen as well. So, what does this modeling logic achieve? Well, it supports 4 incremental business capabilities that are lacking in many organizations and which are shown on the screen. In turn, these business capabilities enable manufacturers to achieve financial, operational, and strategic objectives that are often undermined by fragmented and siloed planning models and processes. Let's explore some examples of these. Let's start with finance. Pick a finance-related research study, and it's likely to mention that organizations are struggling to achieve the objectives shown on the screen. And these struggles can persist despite investments in EPM technology. What's being experienced is that general-purpose financial planning tools are not always fully equipped to achieve these objectives in complex manufacturing settings. Operational research studies show that organizations have the greatest difficulty with the objectives shown on the screen. What's common to them is that they all require greater financial integration, especially profit-based sales and operations planning processes. In light of these operational challenges, it should come as no surprise that manufacturers often have difficulty achieving the full value of S&OP. Traditional sources of such value are shown on the screen. What's important to reinforce here is that EPM2 provides incremental capabilities that enable organizations to fully capitalize on them. From a strategic perspective, research shows that the objectives shown on the screen are the ones presenting the greatest challenges to organizations. What's not always recognized is that immature planning and performance management processes can undermine their achievement. So, what's the common problem that connects strategic, financial, and operational objectives? Well, they all require superior cross-functional coordination to fully achieve. The basic building block for this lies in the ability to connect inputs and outputs, especially across multiple functions and entities that are experiencing significant change and variability. And making such connections is not a traditional area of strength for EPM and S&OP applications. EPM2 helps manufacturers address this gap. It does so by using planning models to make these connections as part of a continuous and ongoing process that includes finance and operations. A number of research studies provide insight into the value of such integrated processes. The one in red provides a starting point for estimating their value to manufacturing organizations. A more pragmatic source of value from integrated processes lies in the fact that organizations can develop and operate one system and process versus 2. This results in the benefits shown on the screen. Integrated processes also create value by eliminating many of the non-value-added activities arising from the use of multiple systems, such as those shown on the screen. Now, it's important to note that organizations often expect traditional EPM tools to eliminate these activities. However, this isn't always the case, especially as it relates to spreadsheets. While EPM replaces their use in data collection, They're often very much alive in planning processes. Why? Because the models supported by these traditional tools aren't always sophisticated enough to fully eliminate them. Those most likely to benefit from integrated processes are manufacturers exhibiting the complexity characteristics shown on the screen. As complexity grows, so too do value and capability gaps associated with traditional EPM and S&OP applications. A key takeaway is that when making design and purchase decisions, manufacturers need to look at software markets differently. Traditional market views provide good perspectives on the ability of vendors to support basic reporting, aggregation, and data collection processes. However, they don't always capture the one factor that drives the vast majority of EPM and S&OP value, and that is the maturity of modeling capabilities and the ability to integrate finance and operations. Some EPM vendors claim to support sales and operations planning, but there's a catch to this claim, the most notable of which is that the logic must be built because it isn't embedded into the tool. So this basically comes down to a make or buy decision. There are also concerns about system flexibility and the ability to scale in larger organizations. In short, traditional EPM applications don't always provide the most attractive of alternatives for supporting S&OP processes. The implication of this market perspective is that manufacturers often design processes and select systems based on outdated and siloed views of EPM maturity. As such, their processes remain relatively immature, as illustrated by the red circle on the screen. Manufacturers often have similar experiences with sales and operations planning, which accounts for the capability gaps that remain in their processes and systems. What's required are more holistic approaches that focus on strategic capabilities supported by applications that support more mature forms of integrated business planning. The questions on the screen summarize some of the key issues addressed in this presentation. If you answered yes to most of them, your organization could potentially benefit from EPM2. In such cases, you should consider stopping or delaying projects until 2 questions are answered. These 2 questions are shown on the screen, along with considerations for answering them. The first can be answered relatively fast. The second takes a little more time, as it addresses how organizations make cross-functional changes to planning and forecasting processes. A short introductory meeting or webinar can go a long way towards assessing the relevance of EPM2. Based on their conclusions, a small team can define the content of a follow-up workshop, one that takes a deeper dive into the issues with a group of key stakeholders and influencers. The purpose of a follow-up workshop would be to address the issues noted on the screen, along with others. Some of these topics are or will be available from the IBP Collaborative as self-running presentations. Provided on the screen is a summary of the key messages from this presentation. Its purpose was to give you a brief introduction into important advances in capabilities for planning and managing the performance of manufacturing organizations. More detailed information about this material is available from the IBP Collaborative or from the author. Please feel free to use the contact information provided on the screen if you have any questions or comments about the material contained in this presentation.